This was a stunner on Friday, late morning. The NFL suspends Lions receiver Jameson Williams and others for violating the league's gambling policy. Now, Williams suspended only 6 games because what he did, Chris, was bet on non-NFL events from an NFL facility. There are others, including C.J. Moore, who just re-signed with the Lions last month, suspended for a year and then cut by the Lions for betting on NFL games. And this is the Calvin Ridley thing. Like, it's stupid when the first guy does it. It's inexcusable when the second guy does it. But it speaks to the fact that a lot of guys who play in the NFL pay no attention.
They don't.
To the NFL.
That's right.
They're not watching this show.
Exactly.
They're not reading PFT. They're not listening to podcasts. They have other things that they do. They have supreme physical talents, and they're young, and they're not interested in following the sport, so they're not aware what happened with Calvin Ridley. But when you see that many guys from one team, it's clear that the message isn't getting through when they have these in-house seminars. And I'm told that, yeah, because somebody said to me, well, they just tuck this information in with all the other stuff like domestic violence and personal conduct policy, and, you know, it gets lost in the shuffle. I'm told that teams do a separate gambling seminar where they tell these guys as clearly as they can what they can and can't do. Well, to have that many Lions get caught, it tells me that something has short-circuited in Detroit, or you wouldn't have 5 guys who ended up getting suspended, 4 guys, I think, who ended up getting suspended for violating the gambling policy. And, you know, the NFL is making it clear, and they continue to make it clear they're not messing around with it. If you violate it, you're done.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm kind of shocked, you know, because of what you said. I mean, you said it right. You know, I think, you know, first off, that not everybody in the locker room's obsessed with, like, paying attention to the NFL news and everything that's going on in the league. There's definitely a faction of the locker room that, hey, they just play football. They like playing it. You know, they kind of know what's going on in the league, but they don't really know, right? You know, so there's that aspect. But with this type of thing, man, my experience as a player, or, you know, even knowing people in the league now and being around some training camps, like, this is the type of thing that it's unavoidable if you're on a football team in training camp. Like, definitely, I'd have a hard time thinking that the Lions and every other football team, yes, there wasn't a, hey, you know, before we have our 7 o'clock team meeting tonight, everybody's got to be in there at 6:15 because we're going to have a 45-minute gambling seminar. We have to be there. It's part of the league rules. And then you're going to see, you know, they're going to give you 6-7 minutes on Calvin Ridley and what he did and why he messed up and why he got suspended. So, I mean, they throw it in your face with this type of stuff. That's where I'm like, man, as a player, I'd have a hard time thinking they didn't realize what was going down here. I mean, or at least at one point didn't have it, you know, taught to them in one of these, you know, meetings or whatever else that's run by a football team. That's where I was shocked, Mike, more than anything.
Well, and, you know, whether it's just hubris or inability to understand that when you use this thing, they have different ways to track it, and the sports books are giving the information to the NFL. That's just the way it is.
I know, like, they think they were getting away with it, right? Like, that's what I was like.
I think they thought that no one was going to know. I don't think they understand, and I try to put myself back in that age, and if I wasn't paying attention to Calvin Ridley, if I wasn't paying attention to the NFL, I don't know. Would I have been scared that somebody's going to find out? These guys apparently weren't scared that somebody was going to find out, and they found out. But here's what it tells me. And there were 4 Lions. There was 1 member of the Commanders who also was suspended for a full year. It tells me that the league is willing to act when the fruit falls off the tree right into their shoe. What are they doing to affirmatively investigate other potential violations? How much of it's proactive and how much of it is we've got DraftKings or FanDuel or whoever we partner with sharing this information with us so we can very easily go out and say to the world, we're enforcing our policy. And if you do that, it provides cover for whatever you're not doing if you've got people in the league office who may be violating the policy. And the policy applies to everyone in the league office, NFL Network, NFL media. And somebody told me that people quietly get fired on a fairly regular basis for violating the gambling policy. It just doesn't become a headline. They don't have to tell the world. You know, if a player gets suspended, it's going to be somewhat conspicuous if he's not there on Sunday. For anybody else, they just disappear and we don't know why. But I also have heard that when you consider how broad the rule is, including Chris, you can't participate in a season-long fantasy football league that pays out more than $250. There are people who work for the league who are violating that.
Right. And
the league either hasn't gotten around to investigating, or the information hasn't fallen into their laps, or they just don't care.
Yeah.
But
right.
These suspensions provide valuable cover to whatever the league may or may not be doing when it comes to affirmatively investigating. That's an important point, because there may be other issues out there far more complicated than kid just didn't realize if he used his phone to drop, $500 on a 5-team parlay, it was going to get back to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot that goes into that, and I'm sure that maybe some of these players thought, wait, if it's not football or whatever else, it should be okay. I don't know what they lost the messaging in translation. I'm with you. I'd like to think there's a time in my life that I would think that the NFL was monitoring this stuff all the time. Like 20 years ago in my brain, I would be like, oh, yeah, they got an office in 345, and they're monitoring everything going on in the world. But what I've realized over the last 10 to 15 years is that, no, it's not quite like that, and they don't want to spend money on stuff like that. And I tend to think that, yes, it only is going to happen when it falls in their lap. And whether it's, one of the gambling companies, whatever, going, hey, wait, we got, activity from players in the NFL. Here it goes. Okay, now we have to act. And that's what they do. But I don't know if they're actively researching this and staying on top of it. I doubt it. That costs money. And, the NFL likes money. They don't like to give it to anybody. So I don't think that's happening.
And there are separate issues that can arise here. Now, look, the NFL was very clear in its announcement on Friday that there was no threat to the integrity of the game. That's the nightmare scenario for the league, that there would be a scandal that arises where somebody is involved in point shaving. And we know that's happened in other sports. The thinking is it would be very hard to do it in the NFL. There was a great documentary, the first episode ever from Frontline, the PBS show that debuted in 1983. Spent the whole hour talking about gambling connections to the NFL, and it's amazing to watch it now. But the talk is you'd have to get to a quarterback or officials or coaches in order to really try to affect the outcome of a game. But beyond that, material non-public information, it's one of the chapters in Playmakers. And I know that there are people in the union who are concerned about it, and they're concerned that the NFL isn't concerned enough about it. Private information, insider trading type stuff. What's your game plan for Sunday? How much is the running back going to get the ball? What's your scripted first 15 plays? How is that information protected? Who on the sidelines is maybe making hand gestures to people now that in-game betting is going to be more and more popular? Run or a pass? Who knows that it's going to be a run or a pass? Who's giving a signal to someone in the stands or someone who's watching at home that's able to lock in a bet? Now, the technology still makes it difficult to make a bet if you're watching on TV. If you're at the stadium, you can pick up on hand signals or whatever someone may be doing. Those are all things the NFL needs to be worried about, Chris, and I just wonder what they're doing to protect information. It's one thing to nail the guys that you catch red-handed betting on football or betting at NFL facilities on non-NFL games. What are you doing to protect that information that can be used by those who are placing bets beyond the NFL universe?
Yeah, no, I know that's going to be the ongoing struggle of the NFL. As powerful as we know, that world is, the gambling world, all the money, all the cash. There's influence there to be had, and hopefully they can do their best to keep it separate. But it's the hardest sport to tank, and to the point you just explained there, yeah, you'd almost have to get to the quarterback or the coach or the referee. They're the only ones that are going to be able to affect the game enough and to know and to figure out the outcome. But hopefully we don't have those problems. And as we know, coaches are psycho. They're competitive. They want to win. Quarterbacks are like that. Referees, I don't know as much on a personal basis, but for the most part, coaches and quarterbacks I've been around, they're willing. They want to win at all costs. They'd be hard to get to, I guess, is what I'm saying there.
I think you're right. But like anyone else, money talks. And you could
know.
have people who are jaded.
Right.
You could have people who feel like they're at the end of a lost season. You could have people who feel like they're at the end of a lost career and they just want to make a little money on the way out the door because they can. You can't account for thousands of different personalities. I mean, think about it. All the different people connected to NFL teams and the NFL itself. There are just so many that statistically you're going to get somebody who is corrupt. You're going to get somebody who has a malignant personality. You're going to get somebody who is tempted to do something they shouldn't do. What safeguards do you have in place to catch that person before they do something that could bring down the entire operation? And I don't mean that facetiously. It could, indeed, in the right circumstance, or for the NFL, the wrong circumstance. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.